welcome into Texans today, everybody. I am your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, I'm going to break down the winners and losers so far from Texans training camp. And before we get going, before I hear the soft comments down in the comment section, Jeremy, why are you calling our players losers? We should support everyone. I'm not saying these guys are losers. I'm just saying throughout training camp, they have, lost a little bit of steam and may be on the roster bubble or finding themselves not a starter on this team. I'm not calling these guys losers. I'm saying just throughout training camp, some of the guys, they've kind of rose to the top, and some other guys have maybe left behind just a little bit. And speaking of rising to the top, I want to know from you at home, which Texans player has impressed the most this offseason? Which guy do you think maybe is the best player on this team? Somebody who you think is the top player that the Texans have at this moment? Let me know down in the comment section, because for me, I think the guy who's impressed me the most, who I think could be the best player on the Texans team in 2025, goes by the name of Will Anderson Jr. Everything I've heard out of camp, everything I've heard from every beat reporter, all of my sources at Texans training camp have repeated one name, Will Anderson Jr., as the most impressive Texan so far this offseason. He looks unblockable, and I know what you're going to say, Jeremy, the offensive line is in flux. We have a lot of rookies, new guys. It doesn't matter. Will Anderson Jr. has been that guy. He's looked like that guy, and I think he is poised to be a sneaky defensive player of the year candidate. Last year, 11 sacks in his second season. And you're like, okay, that's decent. Oh, yeah, but he only played, 12, 13 regular season games last year? If he's able to play 17 games and that number gets into close to the 20 sack range, he could easily be the defensive player of the year this year, especially with his running mate, Danielle Hunter, on the other side, not able to, shift the line protection just his way. I think Will Anderson Jr. is going to open a lot of eyes this year, and I think he could be the best player that the Texans have on their roster in 2025. Let's go to another winner, Azeez Al-Shaair, the linebacker. I mean, I could have put EJ Speed here because he's been working with the ones as well, but Al-Shaair's just looked fantastic all throughout training camp. He's the guy who's going to have the green dot on defense, which means he's the one talking to the coaching staff. He's the one kind of moving everybody around, calling plays on the defensive side of the ball. He's looked great in coverage. He's a true three-down linebacker. Good in run defense and really good in coverage. He had a pick on C.J. Stroud just the other day where he kind of undercut a slant route to Nico Collins. I think Azeez Al-Shaair is somebody who not only does DeMeco Ryans trust, but DeMeco Ryans is taken under his wing as a former linebacker himself and saying, hey, let me give you the keys, let me give you the tools to become one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And Azeez Al-Shaair, just like Will Anderson Jr., missed some games last year. If he can stay healthy for 17 games, that'll be a great sign for this Texans defense. Next up on the winners list, give me Kamari Lassiter, second-year cornerback out of the University of Georgia. And I think he didn't get his flowers last year enough. Kamari Lassiter was fantastic. I know the Eagles had a great young duo, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, both those guys. I'm not taking anything away from them. But I think Kamari Lassiter had a better year than both those guys. On the opposite side of Derek Stingley, you have to think, teams don't want to target Derek Stingley. They want to go away from him. And whenever they did, they had to deal with Kamari Lassiter, who had 58 tackles, 3 interceptions, 10 pass breakups last year. He also had picks during the playoffs as well. It wasn't just a regular season thing for Kamari Lassiter. Great in run defense. Also a very physical corner. Everybody freaked out when the Texans drafted him. He runs a 4.6 40. Oh, my God. Well, he's proven everybody wrong. His short area quickness, his ability to play in the zone and really dissect what the quarterback's doing and where he wants to go, he has been fantastic, and it looks like he's doing the same thing going into year 2, just like his running mate, one of his guys, his best friend, the guy who was drafted right after him in round 3, Calen Bullock. He has looked awesome for this Texans team. I mean, making plays day in and day out, being a disruptor. He's a ball hawk. Ryan Clark, newest Texan C.J. Gardner-Johnson, lauded over Calen Bullock and his progression going into year 2. ESPN named him as one of the guys who could be a superstar after this season is all said and done. Even though they put a picture of Ronald Darby instead of Calen Bullock, ESPN, do better. do better. But anyways, Calen Bullock last year, 5 interceptions, also had an interception in the playoffs, 11 pass breakups, 54 tackles. If he can mitigate some of the mistakes on the double moves where he does kind of tend to bite, that's what you get when you have a safety who is really trying to be a ball hawk out there. I think Calen Bullock is due for another at least 5 interception year this year. I think he's somebody who you should be keeping your eye out on. And this last one, I could have gone in a lot of different directions. But give me Tim Settle, the big man on the inside. The Texans, they have a lot of, guys on the PUP list on this defensive line. And also this morning during practice, Keontae Hamilton went down with an injury. So prayers up to him. Hopefully he gets better. But Tim Settle was a low-key signing last offseason. Didn't get a lot of coverage, obviously. We covered it here on the channel because this is the #1 Texans YouTube channel out there. But Tim Settle had a sneaky good year last year. 31 tackles, 5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss for Settle. And in a contract year, he signed a 2-year deal. This is a contract year for Settle. He's trying to make that money. And he's trying to prove that he's going to hold down the interior for this Texans defensive line. You have great edge rushers out there. Can you have guys who can stop up the middle, make sure the run doesn't go up the middle, and also maybe get a little pressure on the quarterback? Tim Settle has been doing all that for this Texans team and really wreaking havoc on this Texans offensive line so far during training camp. And the defense has been so good, I couldn't just have 5. I have some bonus winners for you as well. Both rookies in the secondary. The Texans are just able to draft these guys in the secondary and develop them so well. Jalen Smith, the 3rd-rounder out of USC, he has looked fantastic. Jalen Reed, the 6th-rounder out of Penn State, has looked really good. And second-year man out of USC, Solomon Byrd, defensive end, all reports are he has looked really good day in and day out. Didn't really get any burn last year for the Texans, but maybe in year 2, coming out to prove himself. Maybe going to get a couple reps here and there on the defensive end front. It's going to be a little hard because the Texans have a very good rotation of guys, but Solomon Byrd is out to prove himself, and he's been showing out during camp so far. Some losers on the defensive side. And maybe it's not fair because both these guys are injured, but I think with some of the other guys that the Texans have added, Christian Harris not practicing, a loser on defense. Like I said, not saying that he's a loser. I think he's a good player, but the fact that EJ Speed is getting reps with the ones, Henry Toto continues to get more reps and kind of switching out with Speed at working with the ones. Christian Harris is in a contract year as well. And the more reps he can get, the better he can get going into this year, the more playing time he'll probably get. So the fact that he hasn't been out there, that makes him a loser in my opinion. Jimmie Ward, same thing. He's been injured, also dealing with the court case. So that could affect his spot on this Texans team. That makes him a loser, especially with Jalen Reed looking really good, the 6th-round safety out of Penn State. That makes him a loser in my opinion. And the third one, not even on this defense, it's opposing quarterbacks because this defense is looking freaking lethal so far this offseason. Opposing quarterbacks, watch out because this team is full of ball hawks and guys that can get after the quarterback. A quarterback's worst nightmare, in my opinion. Now, coming up, winners on the Texans offense. I'm going to look at that side of the ball and tell you who has showed out so far. But great deal from our friends over at Fanatics. This Texans hoodie was $69. Nice. Now, $27. They have it in navy. They have it in gray. They have it in red. All you got to do, go to chatsports.com/HOU massive sale and get it today. Use this link. That lets Fanatics know that we sent you over there. Helps us out a ton. Even if you don't want to get this, they have a ton of other great deals over there. So click in. Go check out the Fanatics website. Maybe do a little window shopping. But I'm telling you, I looked at it. This might be the best deal that Fanatics has on their entire website. I mean, more than 30% off. So go get it while supplies last because it's on clearance. So once they sell out of a certain size, they probably won't bring it back. One more time, that link, chatsports.com/HOU massive sale in the comment section and description of today's show. All right, we talked about the winners on defense. So now let's look at the winners on offense. First up, Christian Kirk, where the Texans, they traded for Kirk from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were about to release him. And then the Texans ended up trading a late-round pick in 2026 for Kirk. That's looking to pay off. If he can stay healthy, he has looked really good. And obviously, Nico Collins, he's the wide receiver 1. But the guy who's made the most plays at the wide receiver spot, in my opinion, has been Christian Kirk. He's looked really good. A lot of attention is on Nico. So Christian Kirk moving around and kind of Nico getting a lot of the attention, it's left Kirk a lot in one-on-one situations, and he's gotten open a ton for C.J. Stroud. I really love the move of Christian Kirk, a cheaper outside to kind of fill in this wide receiver room. We had a lot of questions after we didn't re-sign Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell with his injury, probably not going to play all, if not most, of this season. Christian Kirk has looked awesome. The Texas native, right? Played at Texas A&M. I think he can show out for this Texans offense and be another, weapon for C.J. Stroud to utilize throughout this season. The next winner on the offensive side of the football, give me the Rook, Aireontae Ersery. He has been getting starting reps at right tackle, been getting starting reps at left tackle. I think the Texans want to start this kid. And he is a massive human being, 6'6", 330 pounds, was, one of the guys who I think wrongly slipped to where he did in round 2. The Texans had to trade up to select him in round 2, but I think it was worth it. Todd McShay says he could be one of the best tackles out of this class, and all I see on social media is people freaking out about Josh Simmons is looking really good for the Chiefs. Well, yeah, he's not having to go up against Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter every single day. And I think that's actually going to make Ersery better in the long run. I know he gets beat here and there at practice, but the fact that he's even winning some of the reps up against those guys as a rookie is a very good sign for this Texans offensive line. Do not be surprised if Ersery is in that starting lineup either on the right side or left side in week 1. Let's look at another winner, Nick Chubb. And the fact that Joe Mixon has been injured has let Nick Chubb be that RB1 for this Texans team in training camp so far. Getting a lot of reps, obviously coming back from injury this past year, had the past 2 seasons cut short due to injury. And if we remember, 5 years ago, Nick Chubb was considered a top 5 running back in this league. If he can get to a semblance of what he was before, even if he's 75% of what he was in Cleveland, great news for this Texans team. They want to run the ball more. They want an emphasis on running the ball with this new Nick Caley offense, and Nick Chubb is taking advantage of those reps. I've seen some people saying, oh, Nick Chubb doesn't look that good. I don't buy it. Nick Chubb, I think, has looked pretty good so far during camp. Everybody that I've talked to that's been at Texans training camp, all the videos that I've seen, all the reports that I've heard coming out of Texans training camp is that Nick Chubb looks pretty good. Is he, going to be on that level of Joe Mixon? No, probably not. But is he going to be a good, thunder, lightning type back, a change of pace back? I do think so. Let's look at another one, and I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one. I'm going to go with the entire tight end room. They've looked pretty good. Nick Caley, a former tight end coach with the Rams, a former tight end coach with the New England Patriots. This tight end room, they've all looked pretty good in my opinion. And I do think the fact that, obviously we have Brevin Jordan coming back this year. The Texans drafted Luke Lachey in the 7th round, but Dalton Schultz, I hope he proves me wrong, has been looking good. Second-year guy out of Ohio State, Cade Stover, has looked good. So if they can all improve, I think this Texans tight end room could sneakily be one of the better ones in the National Football League. Look. You want good production out of the tight end room, especially if the offensive line is struggling. That's why they call him the safety blanket. So if you can get good production out of this tight end room, if Dalton Schultz can become a little bit of a better blocker, if Cade Stover can add some more production this year, if Brevin Jordan can come back, look healthy, and be a good vertical receiving threat at that tight end spot, I think this Texans tight end room could surprise a lot of people, maybe even be a top 10 tight end room whenever you consider everybody in that room. So let me know down in the comment section, because I think they're severely underrated right now. The Texans tight end room is, do you think they're overrated, underrated, or properly rated? Let me know down in the comment section. I think they're underrated right now. I think Dalton Schultz obviously, had a down year last year. We're not going to mince words. He did not play well. He was not good in pass blocking. But he's still professional. He's still somebody considered, at times on that fringe top 10 tight end list. So if he can have a little bit of a comeback year, these other guys, these, younger guys can kind of step their game up just a little bit, I think this Texans tight end room is in a good spot. And the last winner on offense for me, I'm going to cheat once again. It's my show. It's my show. I can do what I want. New additions. I think the new additions for this Texans offense, they've all kind of found their spots into possible starting roles. A lot of the new guys that the Texans have added, not even just the rookies, with Jaden Higgins, with Jalen Noel. I think those guys have showed out really well, but the free agency additions, and that's something that, Nick Caserio doesn't get as much credit as he probably should, but the free agent additions that the Texans have added over the past couple seasons, especially the low-key ones, because it's easy to be like, oh, you went out and signed the highest paid guy at this position or at this position. Remember last year, everybody wanted the Texans to sign Christian Wilkins. Looks like they might have dodged a bullet there. But look at these guys that the Texans have added on the offensive side of the football. Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins through the draft. But you might have your starting left tackle, left guard, and center all acquired this year. All acquired this year through free agency. So, I mean, if these guys are able to show out and play well for this Texans team, you didn't, spend a ton on these guys. You didn't spend first-round picks on Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel, kind of let those guys fall to you. This Texans team could improve a ton, and a sneaky, sneaky option in this offense, a new addition that you should be keeping your eyes out for, is Jakob Johnson, the fullback tight end kind of hybrid, played in New England while Nick Caserio, Cole Popovich were there, and he's been getting reps at tight end as well, working with the tight end room. And he could possibly be somebody who is a gadget type guy in this Texans offense with Nick Caley. And as I always mention, this Texans team, this front office, this coaching staff values connections. Jakob Johnson has those connections. So he could possibly usurp somebody like a Luke Lachey for a final 53-man roster spot. Maybe British Brooks, who I know a somewhat fan favorite, a guy who the Texans brought in last year as a UDFA. Jakob Johnson could surpass both of those guys and make this final 53-man roster. Now let's go to the losers on the offensive side of the football. Blake Fisher. I don't like to pile on anybody. I don't like to be a negative guy, but he hasn't played well. He's not getting first-team reps anymore. He's, seemingly kind of fell behind Aireontae Ersery, who's been getting the starting right tackle reps. And maybe I'm putting too much into it. Maybe I'm not. But there's a photo circulating around Twitter. I actually went ahead and quote tweeted it if you want to give me a follow, at Jeremy Chuggs on Twitter. But Cole Popovich, after every single practice, has been making the offensive line do push-ups for mistakes, for getting beat, this, that, and the other. Everybody was in push-up position. You know the player who was on his knee, who wasn't in push-up position? Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher was on his knee. He looked sick. He looks out of shape. And I tried to tell y'all from what I'd heard this offseason that he hadn't been doing too hot. He wasn't having a great offseason. And that's kind of coming into fruition as we see the guys put the pads on. You can hide, but once those pads come on, once the rubber meets the road, there's nowhere to hide. We all see it. We all have two eyeballs, and if you're getting beat consistently, we can see with our plain eyes that there are better options at the offensive line spot. As much as it hurts, I know Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans, in a perfect world, they would want Blake Fisher to start at right tackle. But if he's not better than Ersery by week one, they're just not going to do it. Juice Scruggs as well. He hasn't gotten a lot of burn. He hasn't really played along the offensive line. He's been getting passed up by, Jalen Thomas. He hasn't really gotten a lot of burn at guard. They've just totally abandoned Juice Scruggs playing the center position. So that makes him a loser on the offense as well. And the last loser on the offensive side is Dameon Pierce for me. Hasn't practiced, has been on the PUP list. And as I mentioned with Nick Chubb, he's somebody who has been getting a lot of those reps. And if Dameon Pierce was healthy, especially with the Joe Mixon injury, he'd be getting a lot of those reps. So the fact that he's not out there, especially in a pivotal year where he's on the roster bubble, that makes him a loser in my opinion. That's all I got for you on today's show, folks. If you haven't already, go ahead and go hit that subscribe button. You made it to the end of the video. I'm doing something right. Why not go hit that sub button for free Texans content all year long? You know we got you covered here at Texans Today.